It may not, however, exceed the popularity of a repeat success for Native River. Can you believe it's been 3 years since he first won the Gold Cup? That gruelling, lung-bursting race with Might Bite. But he's kept coming back for more. And this man here is his trainer, Colin Tizzard. This week, Colin announced his decision to hand over the reins at his farm to his son, Joe. He would take over the training operation. He's a huge part in it already, of course. And Colin announced his intention to perhaps take a sidestep and do one or two different things in addition to helping with the training of the horses. And I'm really pleased to say that Colin is my first guest down the line today. Colin, good morning to you.
Hello?
He is there. There was just that brief pause, but I knew he was there. Colin, it's been a momentous week already for you, and that's before we even move into Cheltenham. What really prompted the decision to hand the reins over?
Well, this has been going on for a while, hasn't it? Joe's become more of the front man, and basically all it's going to be is, instead of Colin Tizzard, it'll be Joe, and I'll be sort of taking on Joe's position. We got dragged into a bit of Wincanton. The press boys don't think they had anything much to write about. And they asked me if I was going to have a joint license with Joe, and I said I don't fancy Colin and Joe. Joe can do his modules now. You can do them online, I think, this year, so he won't have to go to Newmarket for 3 weeks. And of course, it all came. They put it straight online then, so that's sort of it's the way it should be. It's Joe's the right age now, and I'm 65, so I can help him as much as he's been helping me.
Colin, just take me right back to the beginning of the training operation. When did you first start sort of training horses of any description, pointers or anything? How long's actually it all been sort of established?
Well, I actually, I rode points, and I rode as an amateur. I actually rode a winner at Cheltenham on Loving Words. I actually went on to come third in the Grand National. That's how good a horse he was. And then when my kids were about, they had ponies all their lives, and then when Joe was 15, we went and bought a pointer up at Ascot Sales. And then someone told me he had a leg, so I went and bought another one the next month. And then the first one was the jogger, and he won 4 in the first year. Then Qualitar Memory, he won 4 in the first year. When we were away, Paul Nichols came up and tapped Joe on the shoulder one night up at Wincanton after a hunter chase and said, "Why don't you come down and ride out for me?" So, we thought, this is heaven. This is and in the next sort of year, I had 6 or 8 pointers, a few liveries, and doing the dairy farm, and we couldn't get riders for the ordinary horses, the best 2. Everyone wanted to ride them, but so I took out a permit, and Mr. One came on and won a few races at Cheltenham and placed in the Boxing Day one at Kempton, and he paid for the gallop, and so I took out a license to train 10, and it's got it got better every year.
And when did it become apparent that training racehorses was going to become more a part of your life than farming the cattle?
Well, we only got rid of the cows 2 years ago, and we still got nearly 500 head of cat beef now, so we're still farming. I always call farming my safety net now, because racing's a fickle business, and I think anyone who's ever had a horse always fancy their chances of training it better than anyone else. We all thought that. We just happened to have a lovely hill right in the middle of our farm, and from day one, horses were getting fit by just cantering up over there, and so that sort of helped us on. Then people started sending us horses, so instead of us having to buy our own, we could finance it, and no, it was lovely.
But did you, even in those early days when you were sort of doing it for yourself and then you had the pointers, was there always something in the back of your mind that thought you could become what you ended up becoming, which is one of the country's most important racing stables? Or is it Has it all sort of happened a little bit by accident?
I don't think it's by accident. We have people come then when Joe rang up. Well, it wasn't really. He said to me one morning, Bob Bishop wants to buy us a horse, and then of course then Q Card came along. Well, there's nothing short of brilliant from day one, and that sort of spiraled us on again. And other people were ringing up, could we train for them? And so we pushed the cows and the heifers back at Venn, and took a few more of the barns, and then we made the decision 3 or 4 years ago to put the horses up at Spurrells, where I am now. It's all evolved, actually. I think it's all happened because of these 3 or 4 very good horses, Thistlecrack and Native River and Q Card. They're sort of some of the best horses which any of us have seen in their era. So they help hold job on.
I want to talk a little bit about Q Card, Colin, and about Bob Bishop, the late Bob Bishop you mentioned. Very interesting man. I had the pleasure to interview him a few times. It seemed to be quite a deep thinker. You and he obviously got on very well.
Yeah, Bob was a lovely chap. Bob wanted it. He's made a fortune out of Lloyd's, places like that, and he wanted the whole truth. He didn't. Someone said to me, "Don't try and tell Bob anything. It was not 100%." And I wouldn't anyway. But he liked the fact if things weren't going right, he wanted to know. And when things were going right, he wanted to know that end of it as well. But we were amazingly lucky to buy Q Card. The first time I'd ever been to the sales in Ireland, Bob had been there before because he'd had racehorses, quite a bit with other trainers, and of course all the vendors were coming up. Bob, here's this one for you, and Colin, here's 10% for you if you have this one, or 10% here, 5% here. And I thought, goodness me, one of them was a great big grey horse. I thought he would win a point. And Jean said she's seen a nice one at the top end of the sales, and this Q Card, and he's unbroken. But I actually said to Bob, I think I could win with him in 2 weeks' time. He just looked an absolute athlete, and the sale price was down that year, and we were second top price at 50, about 50 grand. There's enough money anyway at the time, but it proved, he was brilliant because he won both his bumpers the first year.
I mean, as I say, you couldn't quite win with him 2 weeks later, but it didn't take very long. And for a horse with that pedigree, and his dam was a 4-mile chaser just about, to go and win the Cheltenham bumper as a 4-year-old, and a British horse winning the Cheltenham bumper as a 4-year-old, it was unheard of then. Yeah,
well, we went from the sales and went down to Roddy Green's, and Roddy Green's had him there for 3 weeks. He said, "We better have this one back." He's broke him in, he's cantering on the grass. He said, he's a brilliant horse. And, well, where did that come from? And after about 6 weeks, we gave him a gallop one day with our summer jumpers, say they're 110 rated. And he never came off the bridle. He sort of sluiced past him at the gallop as though he'd been in training all his life. He was like that. He was just brilliant. And we had to slow. I said to Bob, we had to slow this down a bit because we would have had him ready to run in the October, but then we went to Exeter one day and was fogged off. So I said we'll leave him until after Christmas. He's brilliant, but he might be. We'll just wait a bit longer because he might fool us. And well, then he didn't, did he? He came out and won at Fauntwell. Went halfway around the track before Joe could stop him. Up around the top corner, halfway down the back straight, and he's just a brilliant horse.
It always strikes me, even though there are people who would make a case that Thistlecrack might have been the best on any given day, and that Native River might be the toughest horse you've ever trained. There's something about Q Card for you personally that's just very special, and always has been very special. And his career, the first part of his career, sort of mirrored the end of Joe's career, and that moment they had together in the Ryanair, and then the Betfair chases and everything that you experienced together. It seems to me that this horse sort of had more sort of moments of significance for you as a family than perhaps any other.
Well, he was just, the thing is, I think, because he was so good, whatever you'd done was almost right with him. He on the gallops, we didn't have the gallop in that. You know, when he, well, to be fair, when he ran first time, the girls were all riding him and loved him. After he ran the first time, no one could hold him on the gallops. We had a big England boy, Rashid. He had to ride him because he would tear off. You know, right at the top of the gallops, and he loved every minute of it. He propelled us into the big time that day when at Cheltenham, when he had the £1 million bonus, you know, within reach actually, and you know, I was just glad he got up. It was he's a fantastic horse. Still a fantastic horse now. He's here back here down in the other yard, and Rachel, Joe's partner, she rides him nearly every day.
He did go for a bit, didn't he? Because he was gonna have a go at showing or doing something different, and you've ended him, as you said, ended up with him back in the yard. That must have been great for everyone to have him back.
Yeah, well, he went off and done his showing. Then, of course, all the showing was stopped last year, and then Jean rang me up one day and said, "Would you like to have him back?" And I said, "Yes, we would." And so they had him back the first day. They had the saddle on him, and he went for a canter at the gallops on him. It's you know, our horse was glad to be back, and he's like everyone who comes to our yard want to go in the other yard and have a look at Q Card, and it's lovely to have him back.
And if he was an incredibly popular horse and is an incredibly popular horse, if Native River was to win the Gold Cup this week, he might even supersede him in popularity, because he'd do the unthinkable. Come back, 3 years after winning his first Gold Cup. He's barely run a bad race since, even though he's not run that many times, and to do it again. And speaking to Richard Johnson at Sandown on Friday, he genuinely believes he could really do it. What do you really think in your heart of hearts, Colin?
Well, I think he's got one pace. He can go as fast on soft or heavy ground as he can on good ground. It'd be good to soft. We've seen this ground this week, especially yesterday. Sandown, wherever it was yesterday, it was terrible getting ground. So Cheltenham won't be that much different. They will break through the top and get down in. And because circumstances were said, after he had that hard race against Mike Bye, he wasn't quite so enthusiastic the next year, but he is now. He is, and we've had a lovely prep with him. He went to Aintree, then won that race at Sandown, which made him the top-rated chaser in England, which was a lovely accolade, that is. And you don't get that rating by just being a sort of a one-paced. You know what Richard Johnson's going to do if everything goes right. He'll go straight to the front, and he will push it for 3 miles too. It'd be lovely.
And when you look at the race this year, and when you look at your opponents this year, do you think they pose him a much greater challenge than the horses 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or are you not worried about that?
Obviously, there's going to be horses coming through, isn't there? On Albury and Photo, we all see what the Woody Mullins' horses were doing in Ireland a month ago. That makes you wonder why we turn up sometimes. But this race, we've seen this Gold Cup won by. There's been a few local horses of rubber owners and that. They weren't brilliant horses, but they could stay 3 miles too. And Native River can still do it. He ran his last run at Sandown. Was every bit as good as he's ever been. And we had a lovely prep with him. Pretty confident he ran a big race.
Yeah, Sandown was very few people seem to believe that he could produce a performance of quite that magnitude, but he just seemed to have so much relish for it. What do you think it is that kind of keeps him so enthusiastic?
He's a happy horse. When we ran him the first time we ever had him, we ran him in Novice Hurdle at Newton Abbott. He was 3rd of 4. We thought, well, it was Tom Malone who found him. Oh, this won't be too bad. And then come out, won his next few. He puts his head down and he gallops. he's got this relentless stride, and I was just watching that rerun at Sandown now. He kept going up that hill, didn't he? Wasn't stopping, and I know he's 11, but we haven't, circumstances have said we haven't been able to go too hard with him for the last few years. So there's still plenty of in the engine, I think, and let's get there on Friday and see how it goes.
And there are winners coming from the stable again. Now, I spoke to Joe at Wincanton the other day when you had your first winner for a little while, and he said it was a really difficult 2 or 3 months just trying to work everything out. And he said he felt more that he'd learned more about training in that little period of time than he had done in the previous sort of 6 or 7 years. Do you share that view?
Yes, we've had a pretty, the last 10 years we feed them and we gallop them and they win. It's been quite straightforward. Put up a new barn, they're healthy, and off we go. This year, and to a little extent, the end of last year, horses weren't running. They weren't finishing, and we'd extended the gallops the year before because, well, some of what Henrietta Knight said actually, that I do quite well with limited facilities, so we thought we'd put another gallop in then. She won't me to say that again, but the schooling strips and all of that, but there was something wrong. We tested the bloods and they were fine. Tested the urine and they were a bit low on potassium and magnesium, and we could feed that on top of their feed, and gradually they started getting better, and we are quite surprised, and some of them have come out and absolutely bolted up. And we haven't run any of the good ones lately. The sort of 8 or 10 we're going to run at Cheltenham. They've had a lovely prep. They're coming in their summer coats, and they're, we can't wait to get there really, because it's if 1 or 2 of them get their best form back, they've got a good chance of winning.
And aside from Native River and the Gold Cup, it seems that the horse you're most excited about is the Big Breakaway, who this time last year we were all purring over, and he's done well, but the expectation bar is set so high that we all expect him to be a champion every time he runs. It sounds to me like you think you got half a chance of giving Monkfish a fright.
Well, I do. If you won at Cheltenham first time out this year, I don't know what he beat, and then he looked all over the show at Exeter, ran a really good race at Kempton, but he was flat out going right-handed. We took Native River there, and he came third in that race, and he couldn't handle a sharp Kempton. Native River couldn't. So we thought it was going left or right, and it was going right-handed. He didn't handle that. But he's the same type of horse. He's a dour stayer. You see him on our gallops now. Just the last fortnight we've been getting him ready for Cheltenham so that this is done now. We don't have to go fast anymore. But he powers to the top. There's nothing he's on the pro. Nothing can lie up with him. And he schooled brilliantly this week. He's a lovely horse. Those Monkfish is obviously a very good horse, makes a runner, so it's lovely. We can go there and sit upside him if we need to, and see where we are.
And is there a horse, Colin, this week that nobody's been talking about that you think deserves a bit more attention, that you think could just spring back to life and surprise a few people?
I think Eldorado Allen, actually, he's going to go in a chase handicap. For a few strides at Doncaster, I thought we had Siskin under we had him off the bridle, then Siskin sort of changed gear and off he went. But I don't think the horse was quite right. He just didn't look like he does now. At the moment, he is beautiful in the gallops, and he gets to the top and he's happy. Before that, was all seen a bit of a struggle, but. So I'd say he's back in a handicap. He could, he was rated 157 as a hurdler. We run off 149. So if he's anywhere near back to his best, we've got a chance with him.
When you made your announcement this week, or as you say, it sort of happened almost not deliberately, you announced the intention to hand over the reins to Joe. You said that you might want to just go and do other things now. Life's not all about farming or racing. There were things that you hadn't done that you wanted to do. Will you be significantly more hands-off then, do you think?
No, I don't think anything's going to change. I'll still be up at the gallop looking at horses' legs, discussing it with Joe and Chris and Amanda. But there's always, I quite fancy if, the world we're living in at the moment with COVID, we don't know if you want to get on a plane and go anywhere, but I'm 65 and I couldn't really go in October. So I'd love to have a month, when a lot of young farmers or young men go to these, we've been on one or two holidays. I'd love to go to New Zealand and it'd be lovely to do a month of that in a minute, and it won't make any difference to our training. I'll still be helping Joe, but he's the right age, and I feel as my father and my two brothers, we split the farming businesses up when we were 30, and we went on our own. And it's quite a jaunt when you can sit behind someone all your life, and when you're actually names on the top, it does sort of tunnel vision you that you've got to do everything you possibly can to win, and it will to do with Joe. He's I enjoy watching him. I've enjoyed watching him get a bit stressed during this last 3 months when they haven't been running so well. At least he cares as much as anyone, and it is. It'd be lovely for Joe to take on, and I'll enjoy that side of it. We have got a lovely lot of 4-year-olds at the moment coming through. There's a couple of them could be superstars. I think they're brilliant, and they probably won't run this year. But it's just transition really. At the moment, it's just going to be changing the name at the top as it goes on. Ease off a little bit, but not very much.
And Colin, when I spoke to Joe after Native River won at Sandown the other day, he and I think everybody around him was very keen to stress once again the huge part that was played by your daughter Kim, who you lost last year, and the sheer outpouring of warmth and affection to your family and the tributes to her memory must have touched you enormously. How much would success this week mean to you in terms of honouring her contribution to what you've all achieved?
Well, Nick, it's when you spoke about it, but shortly after Kim passed on, it was brilliant. We watched it again since, and she was, when I had 10 horses in training, I couldn't keep up. And Kim she went to Lambourne as a nanny, and I said, Kim, I need you back. And she always was back there when Joe was off being a jockey for 10 years, and she sort of helped everything I done. Was Kim helping me, the staff and the rotors and making sure all the forms are filled out, and it's just cruel that she was so fit. She used to run to work 15 miles some mornings, and she's as fit as a flea, she was. And then to lose her, it's nothing's ever gonna. I can't put it into words, but it's tragic, and so it would be lovely, if for Freddie and Dave, Fred wants to be, my grandson, he wants to be a jockey, so we'll be doing everything we can to make sure he has a couple of good pointers next season and get his license sorted out. So if I got one, I can run an amateur race, he can ride. It's going to go on, and it's lovely, but it's just coincided with this COVID and our horses not running so well, and losing Kim's been hard, but I'm sure we'll come out of it better people.
Well, the strength of your character, Colin, and the strength of your family is there for everybody to see, and I know I can speak for everybody when I say good luck. We wish you well, and certainly you are going to be flying a very important flag through the next few days. Colin, thanks for talking to me.
Yes, thanks very much, Nick. Pleasure.
Subscribe to Racing TV to be notified when more Luck on Sunday videos are appearing online. And don't forget to join me for the show every Sunday morning from 9 o'clock with the best guests.